Welcome in to Check the Mic. We have a very special episode here. We got Jim Nagy, all things Senior Bowl, the executive director. Is that the official title for you?
It has been for a long. Yeah, that's been a title for a long time now.
All right. Well, Jim, always appreciate having you talking draft and specifically talking Senior Bowl. We're pre-recording this. When you're hearing this, I'm already down there. I'm down in Mobile. We're hanging out on the sideline. We're watching practice. So what are things like for you right now heading into the game? And again, just give everybody a reminder of everything that you're trying to do, that you're trying to accomplish here with the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, it's a really busy time, and we just lost 2 full days in the office because of a blizzard. An all-time record. We had 7 inches of snow in Mobile, and that might not sound like a lot to people in other parts of the country, but down here on the Gulf Coast, I mean, it crippled the city. I mean, wow. It's still really shut down for the most part. Most businesses aren't open. Yeah, it was like the apocalypse a couple nights ago. You couldn't get anywhere. Everything was closed down. So that's there's just a lot. You know, this is the time of year when we're trying to get the players into town. The staff really comes together. Everyone's wearing a lot of hats and a lot of collective efforts right now. And so that was hard to not be together for a couple days in the lead up to this thing. But yeah, so the coaches will get in Saturday. Players will get in on Sunday, and a lot to be done. So it's a really busy time around the office right now.
Let's start just talking high level as far as this draft goes. You know, health of the draft, strengths and weaknesses of the draft. How would you evaluate the 2025 draft just as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I like the draft. It's I don't think there's, we've talked about this over the course of the fall. I don't think there's a bunch of blue chip players up high. I don't know if it's a great year to have a top 10 pick. There are teams that have less than 10 first round grades on their board right now. So, but the depth of it is good. We had over 800 players on our watch list this year, which is a ridiculous number. I hate it being that big. It's usually 400 or 500, but we're dealing with that extra COVID class, and then the juniors, which we've never dealt with either. So, but I like the overall depth. I really, especially like rounds 2 through 4. I think there's some really good players in there. And then at certain positions, it's going to be the best running back class we've had in a long time. The D-line class is loaded. Both those groups down here in Mobile will be 2 of our best groups. The offensive line group actually shaped up to be a little better than we thought it would when the season started. So yeah, I like this draft. I just don't know if I was sitting up there really high in the draft. I'd probably be looking to trade back.
You mentioned that, your watch list was high. I remember you talking through that last, spring and summer, basically saying, I can't believe how many players we're at least keeping an eye on here, right? That are potential draftable grades. Did you see that essentially play out in the fall, that there is a lot of depth, and that there is, there's a lot of, again, that, middle round type of players that could bring some value?
Yeah, it played out pretty much how we thought it would. I mean, I don't think the corner class ended up being quite as good as we thought. Like I said, I think the offensive line ended up being a little bit better. But overall, yeah, it's a solid group. I mean, you're going to be able to find players at every level of this draft. I mean, you should be able to, right? Yeah, it's a good draft. It's probably not as strong at wide receiver as in the past couple of years. I mean, we've had a couple unbelievable wide receiver classes here in the last 3-4 years. So it just depends on what you're looking for. But if you scout it right, you're going to be able to find players, all the way through, including free agency.
We'll get to the D-line and the one-on-ones. I can't wait to watch all the one-on-ones next week. But we got to start with the QBs and what the QB room looks like at the Senior Bowl. Last year, of course, 6 first-rounders at the quarterback position. What does the class look like as a whole, and who should we be keeping an eye on at the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, we had 2 of those first-rounders last year with Bo Nix and Michael Penix going 8 and 12. I don't think we're going to have that in this year's group, but from top to bottom, this might be our best group. So, again, there's name recognition. When we're down here, we're trying to sell tickets. As we sit right here, we're 1,000 seats short of a sellout, and we're way ahead of last year's pace when we sold it out. So that's big. For us locally here, having Jalen Milroe, the Alabama quarterback, and Riley Leonard who's a local guy. For us, those are big. You have Dylan Gabriel, who's a Heisman finalist. You have Will Howard, who was in the college football playoff. I mean, it's a really good group. Jackson Dart is a guy that paying attention to what you guys are doing in the media right now. Jackson Dart's certainly a name that people are trying to push up there closer to the first round. And I do think there's some love trending that way. He was of the quarterbacks when we announced. I mean, I got a lot of my phone was buzzing quite a bit when we got Jackson on board. just because I think the league wants to see him down here in this setting. So yeah, it's a good group. We're excited to get those guys down. And I know most of these guys just from having some background with them at the Manning camp and stuff over the summers. Really like the group of guys, the people in this group. So it should be fun to have them down here and see how they sort it out.
How important is a week like this for a guy like Jackson Dart? You know, you've got Lane Kiffin's offense. Lane's one of the best play callers in all of college football. You watch how many times he's scheming guys open behind the defense and everything, and watching a Jackson Dart in more of that, you know, the quote pro style type of setting.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, I've commented on that recently, and again, it's really a tip of the cap to Lane Kiffin. It's no knock on Lane Kiffin. He does right. Such a great job that stealing a line from an assistant GM earlier this fall, it's like watching routes on air when you watch Ole Miss tape. So, yeah, they're going to want to see this guy in a pro style offense and thrown into tighter windows and all those things. So I think that's why the league, that's why people are reaching out, because they're excited to see those things down here.
Where do you think the league is on a guy like Jalen Milroe? I think, you know, had some ups and downs as a passer, dynamic athlete, but just improved every single year, I think, at Alabama.
Yeah, I think he's ahead of where Jalen Hurts was. And again, I kind of, you know, we know that down here because we have the calls with the teams. And again, all credit to the teams. We're really grateful for our relationships. And we don't take that lightly, guys. I mean, there's nothing more sensitive than draft information. I've worked for teams where they close the draft room to the coaching staff. If that makes sense. So for teams to share their grades with us, and we know where these players are, at least when we go through that process in November, is a huge benefit to us. But so that year coming down here, Jalen Hurts, whatever that was 4 or 5 years ago now, I mean, he was a 4th or 5th round draft pick for most teams. And we all know that he ended up going in the 2nd to Philly, and he's outplayed that even, right? But I think right now, Milroe, there's a pretty wide range on Jalen. You know, I think somewhere any from late 1st to late 3rd, early 4th, you know, depending on what team you talk to. So it's a pretty wide range, but he's ahead of where Jalen Hurts was, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, he's a dynamic athlete, and he's done some really good. He's made some, you know, really positive strides throwing the football this year, anticipation, those kind of things. But then the play was a little uneven at times. So I understand why teams want to see him. So yeah, this is a big process for Jalen. It's a big process for all these players, but at the quarterback spot, maybe no one more than Jalen Milroe in this draft class.
Hey guys, got to tell you about our friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CheckTheMic. You get $50 instantly when you play $5. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, and Georgia, and Texas. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. PrizePicks has invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out your lineup even if it isn't perfect. You could double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks keeps your lineup alive. So download the app today. Use the code CheckTheMic. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CheckTheMic to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Just to give some insight to our listeners, where are teams right now in this entire process? Because you're talking about team grades. How deep into the grading process, the final grade, are teams right now in the scouting process? You've got all-star games. You still have the combine. You still have all the interviews. You know, how locked in are teams right now, and how much do those things tend to change?
Yeah, not very much. And again, you're not going to see guys jacked up and down the board. Like, we're not talking big, you know, your guys aren't going from the 2nd round down to the 6th round unless there's a crazy medical thing that pops up at the combine. But no, it's a really fluid process. I mean, I would say right now that most teams haven't even met yet. You know, most teams don't meet until February, until after Senior Bowl, and then leading into the combine. So, yeah, it's a really fluid process. The coaches are just getting involved. You know, we just onboarded our coaching staff last week, and they're trying to jump into their guys and their position group before they get to Mobile, and they're way behind. The general managers are behind. You know, those guys don't get a lot of time to get out to games or get out to schools in the fall. They're really focused in on what's going on in their building with their team. So they're playing catch up right now. I mean, they're all going to be here next week and, you know, checking out our guys. So it is. This is really the beginning of the process. The scouts have worked tremendously hard. They've been out there in the fall collecting all the information, watching the players. But it's just really starting to come together right now for them.
I think that's the thing that maybe a lot of fans don't realize is that the GMs don't have, I think most GMs at this point, don't have mastery of the entire draft board, right? They don't have mastery of the entire draft class. Scouts are doing the work, GMs are getting informed, and then opinions are being shaped. And like you said, the meetings that really shape things in February and March leading up to the draft. Let's discuss the D-line, man. O-line, D-line drills. Can't wait for it. I mean, trying to figure out which side of the field to be on, where I'm going to be. Like, how am I going to take all of this in with the depth of this defensive line class going up against, like you said, an underrated offensive line class next week?
Yeah, and Steve, we might split it up to get these guys as many reps as possible. We're talking through that right now. We might do 2 different sets of one-on-ones, and you know what? You might not be able to watch everything here, but that's why we have tape. And I know you have access to the tape, but yeah, it's always kind of the main attraction. Senior Bowl one-on-ones. It's great content. I mean, whatever level of fan you are, if you're one of these guys that's a huge draft nut, draft sicko, as people call them on social media, or you're just a casual fan. Everyone knows who wins in a one-on-one battle. That's the fun of it, right? And so, there's going to be some big boy matchups. I think, the biggest difference on the roster this year was the buy-in from the junior class. And really it's on both sides of the line. The trench guys really bought into the game. So to get the Dayon Walkers and Shamar Stewarts and Walter Nolans on defense and the Josh Connerleys and Marcus Bowe and some of these guys on offense, it's gonna make for some big time matchups.
How many of these defensive linemen do you see as having first round potential? You just rattled off a bunch of names. I mean, Walter Nolan feels like a guy that could be an absolute riser with his pass rush ability. Dayon Walker, not many people his size and movement skills. Shamar Stewart feels like a guy that's starting to get that love right now because of his size and athleticism. So who are the names that we're definitely needing to know here on the defensive line?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I wish the board were in front of me, or I wish I had a roster sitting in front of me right now.
I'll just read names.
I would say like Landon Jackson at Arkansas is a guy that's going to be in that mix for the first round. That pass rush group, when you look at how many guys are coming down here with production, and that's what everyone's looking for, right? That's one thing that tends to carry over as a pro. And we've got, the national sack leader, Mike Green from Marshall, had 17 sacks. Donovan Izaraku from Boston College was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. He had 16 and a half. Kyle Kennard from South Carolina was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. I think he had 11 and a half or 12. So that all those positions are loaded. Like I said, I kind of undersold it the other night on social media. I said I thought 4 to 6 guys on the interior would have a chance. But if you open it up to those edge players as well, because I think this draft is so undefined right now and it's so wide open, that, man, you could probably somewhere in that 10, 12, 15 range of guys that, I'm not saying they all will, they all won't, but guys that have the potential to get up there in the first round, I think that number's really big.
Is Mike Green the guy that, like, if he just had a Buckeye helmet or something, that we're discussing him in the top 15? Does he have a chance to really go that high as an elite pass rusher?
He could, and you bring up the Buckeyes. That was his one really big play-up game this year, and he was really good. So yeah, he's got a lot to prove. I kind of liken him to Quinyon Mitchell last year, right? I think everyone likes him. I think everyone likes Mike Green and what he brings to the table because he is a really natural pass rusher. He's got feel. He's got really nice counter game. He can beat you with speed because his get off is one of the best in this class. But he's got to prove it. And Quinyon did the same thing. Everyone liked Quinyon Mitchell before he came down here, but then he came down here and locked up a bunch of future NFL players like, he had a bunch of great one-on-ones with Roman Wilson and Ricky Pearsall. And then he's the number 1 corner in the draft last year. So I think Mike Green could solidify himself and kind of raise himself. But, sometimes we're all guilty. Sometimes the scout in the helmet. And that's what this game's all about, is eliminating that.
Quinyon made his point pretty quickly early in the week last year.
He did.
Down in Mobile.
I was talking to his agent the other day, and I think there's a real difference. What I've seen over the last 6 years, going into year 7 here, there's a real difference for guys that come down here with a business-like mindset. I'm just going all the way back to when Debo was here. This was a business trip for Debo Samuel. I mean, he was locked in. Bo Nix was locked in last year. Quinyon Mitchell was locked in. You could just tell, like, they came here on a mission. They were very stone-faced all week. I don't think I saw any of those guys crack a smile the entire time they were here. But those are the guys that do the best. They come down here. There's a goal in mind. And back to your point. I mean, Quinyon from day one, he was ready to go.
Hey guys, the start of the new year is the perfect time to get organized, set goals, and prioritize what matters most. And for me, top priority is my financial wellness, which feels more important than ever. So thanks to Rocket Money, my goals feel achievable. They show me all of my subscriptions right in one place, help me easily cancel ones that I forgot I've been paying for. It's awesome because we just learned that 85% of people have at least one paid subscription going unused each month. Feels like Rocket Money can help. They pull together all of my spending across all of my different accounts so I can clearly track my spending habits and see where I can cut back. So Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending, helps lower your bills so you can keep growing your savings. Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your expenses across all of your accounts. You can easily create a personalized budget with custom categories to help keep your spending on track. And you can see your monthly spending trends in each category to know exactly where your money's going. You can also get alerts if bills increase in price, if there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over budget. And Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you. They automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save. Then you can ask them to negotiate for you. So they'll deal with customer service so you don't have to. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved over $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/checkthemic today. That's rocketmoney.com/checkthemic. What about some of those other offensive line names that you had mentioned? The two Oregon guys, I think are upside type of players that have been mentioned, and it's not as maybe high end as far as the offensive tackles go compared to last year, but there's definitely, like you said, underrated and some names that had a good fall.
Yeah, Josh Connerly is really the one left tackle, and I give him a lot of credit. We didn't get Kelvin Banks from Texas. We didn't get Will Campbell from LSU. Connerly wants to be the first tackle taken, and that's why he's coming here, because those other two guys aren't. These players see all the mock drafts. Their families do. Their agents do. So that's why he wants to come here and prove that he is the best left tackle in the group. And then there's, what's interesting about this class is when you break them down and you watch where they played positionally in college. I brought up Marcus Bowe from Purdue's name, Armand Membu from Missouri, Big Jonah Savinea from Arizona. These guys were all right tackles. So, but they're all athletic enough to play left tackle at the next level, similar to Tyler Guyton last year. Tyler Guyton was a career right tackle at Oklahoma, and he started every game at left tackle for the Dallas Cowboys this year. So there's a bunch of guys that have played on the right side that you're going to see on the left side for the first time. And then because of the body type and the composition, a lot of teams want to see these guys inside. So you're going to see Marcus Bowe inside. You're going to see Big Jonah inside. So, that's going to be a lot of fun, seeing those guys play at different positions. We've got guys that want to snap for the first time. You'll see Gray Zabel from North Dakota State snapping a football. And we've had a lot of success with guys like that. Cole Strange, Zion Johnson, Quinn Miners. This was the first competitive environment that those guys ever snapped a football. And Cole and Zion went in the first round, and Quinn Miners jumped from, really a PFA 7th round grade for most teams to going in the 3rd round. So it's going to be fun. This offensive line class is going to shake itself out.
And remind everybody too, as far as position switches or position versatility within the week, a lot of that, is that your own evaluation, or is that, again, feedback from teams like, hey, I want to see this guy try something new, want to see him at center, whatever it might be?
Yeah, it's a compilation of all that, Steve. So it's it's our scouting staff's evaluation of the player. It's the feedback that we get on the calls with the NFL teams. And then a lot of it's conversations with the representation. What we'll never ask a player to do something he doesn't want to do. So, we had a player years ago, Alex Leatherwood from Alabama, who when he signed up to play in the Senior Bowl, he said, Jim, I only want to play left tackle. And I said, well, Alex, most teams see you as a right tackle or a guard, man. So, it would probably behoove you to do those. But he kind of dug in, and he only wanted to stay on left tackle. So that's where we kept him. So we always have those conversations with the representation and the players, make sure everyone's on the same page before I go to the coaching staffs who just got announced. And we just did that 2 days ago. We had a Zoom with the O and the D on both sides. 4 different Zoom calls were set up. And then we just went through, okay, where are we cross-training these guys? Where are we going if we get in a pinch at a position? If is there a strong safety that can play some linebacker if we get thin at that spot over the course of the week? Is there a nickel or a corner that can go back and play some safety. So we had those calls, but yeah, we just want to make sure everyone's on the same page before we get here to Mobile.
Let's talk a little wide receiver, cornerback. Obviously, those are the other one-on-one matchups everybody loves to see. You mentioned the wide receiver class, maybe not as deep as previous years, but I mean, I'm still seeing some good football players in there in the middle rounds or wherever they end up going. The Xavier Restrepos of the world, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Royals. I know you guys have been high on. So who should we be keeping an eye on in this receiver class?
Yeah, I'm excited about this group too. Kind of like the O-line. I think we're going to see some of these wide receivers ascend. It's not a big junior wide receiver class. Luther Burton came out. McMillan from Arizona came out. I mean, but there weren't a lot. Golden at Texas, Bond at Texas, but it's a small junior class. So we'll see. I think there's some undervalued senior receivers in this class. You brought up a couple of them. I mean, Higgins and Noel, I think, are both day 2 players from Iowa State. Isn't that crazy? Like the best wide receiver combo in the draft's coming from Ames, Iowa. That's pretty cool. Pretty good.
They're both legit.
Yeah,
they're both legit in their own right with different skill sets. They're very impressive what Iowa State's done.
Yeah, shout out to Matt Campbell in recruiting there. They've done a great job. But like Alec Amanor from Stanford is a guy right now that I tried to get Alec a bunch of feedback from teams when he was trying to decide what to do. And man, it was really consistent second round grades. I mean, there was a couple thirds in there, but nothing on day 3. It was mostly second round grades. And then you've got guys like Pat Bryan in Illinois. I mean, I think people are kind of sleeping on him a little bit. So Jack Besh at TCU, really good football player. I'll get this out of the way right now. Like, I'm pulling for Jack Besh to have a great week. I want all these guys to have a great week, but because he lost his brother tragically in that New Year's Eve tragedy there in New Orleans, I hope Jack comes down and has an awesome week here.
Yeah, he had a great year at TCU, and then his TCU teammate Savion Williams, he's down there. What is he going to be down there this week?
He had to pull out because of an injury, but Savion had a great year, and especially like the second half of the year when they started using him in a Wildcat, and that's why I've been calling him Cordarrelle Patterson 2.0. I mean, to me, that's what he is. I mean, they look the same, they move the same, great athletes. Really, the best thing they do is when they get the ball in the hands. So, credit to Sonny Dykes and the TCU staff to really getting him more involved as a direct snap player this year. But yeah, unfortunately, he's not going to make it down. I got a call a couple weeks ago, one of those unfortunate calls from the agents that their guys were either, I'll say this, like what I don't think a lot of fans realize is that like the injuries these guys play through in college. And some of these guys are really banged up and get through the season, and then they're, either they're playing through it or they're misdiagnosed at college, and the agents all send these guys off to their own doctors, and they get, new scans back and stuff pops up on the scans. So that's what happened with Savion.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, so Savion, by the way, over 50 carries. You mentioned all the direct snaps. He's a listed 6'5". I don't know what he is. What's his actual height? Do you have his actual height?
It's in the 6'3s. I think, it's not quite 6'4", but that's a big receiver anyway.
It's impressive. It's impressive nonetheless, right? I mean, the guy was, when he runs with the ball, I think the Cordarrelle Patterson comp is outstanding. I used to work out with a bunch of guys before they would train for the combine, and they, from Boston College and Zach Diossi from Brown, and all these guys would finish their season and work out with me as I was getting ready for the baseball season. And they were kind of out of shape. Like they were in football shape, but not in workout shape, not in like get ready for the combine shape. Their body was completely beat up. And I think I was going to ask you anyway, how much the longer season might have an effect on some players. We just saw the national championship on January 20th. How much is having a longer season college football playoff? How much more is that beating up on players who are now missing out on some valuable time to work out and get ready for the combine, for pro days, and everything that matters as far as the draft goes?
Yeah, it's Steve, it's certainly not great for us. We just lost basically every Ohio State player we had committed to playing the game. We held on to some of the Notre Dame guys, which is a credit to them. I don't think anyone, including myself, I'm not mad at those Ohio State guys. They essentially just played an NFL season. They played 16 football games. So, it's something I think in the offseason I'd like to dig in with the NFL league office and really talk about our calendar, because, again, we can't push back unless the combine pushes back. And so I think we all have to get on the same page. I'll say this, just from working with a team for a couple decades, I think we could move back a couple weeks. I think the combine could move back a couple weeks, because when you get into April, I mean, you're sitting around those last couple weeks of April in a draft room, and like the hay's in the barn. Like you're tying up some loose ends and whatnot. But man, we don't need all that time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, so if the combine moved back to the middle of March or second or third week in March, you still have plenty of time. You don't need the full month of April for the scouting staff to be sitting in a draft room, parsing over these players again. So I think it can be done. I think it's a conversation that needs to be had, because again, these Ohio State guys, they wanted to play here. They were bummed out, but they also know they wouldn't come here in their current shape and probably show the way they wanted to show. So yeah, it's unfair to those guys that they can't take full advantage of the process.
Then you have to maybe alter free agency, which is second week of March, but it might be moot if college football adjusts, because they're already having conversations. They thought it was too late, right? I mean, they don't want to have their title game, I don't think, on January 20th, during the divisional round weekend of the NFL. So that's going to be interesting to see if college ends up moving forward, and maybe at the end of the day, it ends up okay.
Well, Steve, TV ratings drive the bus, right? And
yes.
I don't know if those ratings were to the liking of the CFP people, so that might get them to move off their date next year. We'll see.
Going head to head with the NFL with the first round of the playoff, not a good decision for college football. So the money will definitely dictate that. Hey guys, as a former professional athlete, I care about what I put into my body, especially when it comes to protein. So that's why we're so pumped to be sponsored by Orgain. Orgain believes real nutrition has the power to make a real difference in people's lives. Orgain's new 30-gram complete protein shakes offer protein-packed real nutrition designed to satisfy your cravings without any added sugar. And, I've been using it right after my workouts. I love the convenience. I love having the 30 grams of protein. I like the vanilla, I like the chocolate. Orgain's been fantastic. And I wish I had it when I was playing. I wish I had Orgain, which tastes great and has the convenience and has all the protein. Wish I had this during my playing career. So Orgain's been fantastic for Check the Mic, and it'll be great for you as well. And as Sam and I hit the road, I know we'll be taking Orgain on the road with us as well. Protein powders, bars, shakes, whatever you're looking for, Orgain has the products that the entire family will love. So remember, there are no quick fixes when it comes to your health. If you want more protein, give Orgain 30-gram protein shakes a try. Head to Orgain.com/checkthemic and use code checkthemic for 30% off your order. It's the best offer you'll find, but you have to use the code checkthemic for 30% off. One last time, for 30% off, head to Orgain.com/checkthemic. Use code checkthemic. High end, I think we're going to ask this every year for the next few years. How is NIL affecting college football and the NFL? What are you seeing as far as NIL and just the way things might be affecting the draft in particular?
Well, we saw the junior number go back up a little bit this year. It topped out back in 2019. I want to say that number was in the 140s, like 147 or something. I don't know the exact number, but it was north of 140. Then last year, it was down south of 60. I think we were like at 57 or 58. And this year was back up to 70. But I mean, it's helped keep a lot of these players in, which is great for the whole process. It certainly would have been great for the Senior Bowl, before they allowed all the juniors in. Now it doesn't really matter because we can bring the juniors anyway. But no, it's keeping guys in school. Guys are making better football decisions. A lot of guys used to jump early because they had a family need they couldn't take care of. Now with NIL, they can do that. What's really affecting the Senior Bowl more so than the NIL is the transfer portal. I think everyone that follows the Senior Bowl loves kind of the small school element of the game, and coming down here and seeing all the different small school helmets and, the Quinn Miners and the Spencer Browns and the Cody Mauks and all these guys that have, come down here and done a great job and helped their draft stock. But, and that's going away a little bit, unfortunately. We've really tried. If it's between a small school player, like a late draft, we try to stick to our board. We're trying to get all these guys drafted. But if we're sitting there and we're picking guys in the later rounds and it's a small school helmet and a big school helmet, we'll usually defer to the small school guy because we want to keep that. But that's right now, that's probably had more of an effect on us than NIL.
Do you think ultimately it's a better product for the NFL if players get an extra year in college? Because the junior declarations, wasn't it up to like 120 at one point? I mean,
it was over 140.
140, yeah.
It was over 140.
And some of those juniors were going undrafted or just, never seeing the field or whatever it is. Is this At the end of the day, does that end up being a better NFL product with players just having a lot more football under their belt?
Yeah, I mean, look no further than what we're seeing right now with what we saw this year at the quarterback position. I mean, to me, if you're looking at overall quality of play in the NFL, it starts at the quarterback spot, right? And Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, these guys. I mean, a lot of people took shots at those guys last year at the draft process. Through this time last year, that they're too old, and just a lot of comments out there to that. But we're seeing it play out, and that's why guys like Dylan Gabriel. The guy just broke Bo Nix's start record, started 63 games in college. These guys are going to be more prepared. You're not getting developmental reps in the NFL. What Anthony Richardson is getting right now for the Indianapolis Colts, those aren't true developmental reps. I think it would have probably been better for Anthony to stay in college for another year and get those reps in college. But so I think it's a good thing. If you just started at the quarterback spot, I think we're going to see more quarterbacks having more of a seamless transition as they go to the pro level.
I was going to ask that specifically. The old Bill Parcells, hey, you need at least 30 starts. My funny joke last year was Bo Nix did that twice.
Yeah.
And Dylan Gabriel's done that twice, right? They've both had 30 starts twice. Do you think, and Brock Purdy had that, he's a 4-year starter and he has success versus guys like Sam Darnold, who are redshirt sophomores, and Jameis Winston, redshirt sophomore, and Anthony Richardson, who you mentioned, these Trey Lance, these very inexperienced quarterbacks relative to history. Do you think we end up trending back that way to like, hey, go make sure you have 30, 40, 50 starts in college, and then that's going to bode well for you in the future?
Yeah, I think a lot of people with Brock Purdy's success, how do we miss on this guy? How is he Mr. Irrelevant? You're trying to, us included, we invited Tyson Bagent to the Senior Bowl over Brock, and I'm glad we did. I mean, Tyson had a great week here, and he's the Bears' number 2 quarterback, is a Division II player. So I mean, we love having Tyson here. But when you go back and look at Purdy, I mean, he played a ton of football, and he's really competitive, and he's really smart. He had all the right wiring, and that's why a guy like Seth Hennigan, who we have in the Senior Bowl this year, 4-year starter at Memphis. I've always been a big guy at the quarterback position of like, who's raised the level of their program. And I always use some like dated references, but like when Brett Favre was at Southern Miss, I mean, they went in and beat Bobby Bowden's Florida State team. Like when those guys were rolling, they went into Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama when Alabama was really good. So in Seth Hennigan, they won 11 games this year at Memphis, man. That's not easy to do. Credit to Ryan Silverfield and what they've done there. So like Seth is a guy, when you talk to people around the league, he's probably valued more in the league right now than in the media, because they just love the makeup of this guy. His dad's a high school coach, one of the great high school coaches in the state of Texas, grew up around football, has a lot of the same stuff Bo Nix has, played a ton of college football. So, yeah, long-windedly, Steve, I'm answering your question, but yeah, I do. I think it's going to go back to that. I think teams are going to go back to this game's played from the neck up at that position and really dig into those guys.
No, I think it's a good answer, Jim. I thought that was good because it's interesting. Everybody wants to figure out the quarterback position, of course, and it's not easy, but you do have these ebbs and flows, and it does feel like it's flowing more that way. Like the experienced QBs, Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams. Caleb is extremely talented, but man, Jaden Daniels went through some stuff at Arizona State and through LSU and really developed and I think that, and Bo Nix I'll say it again. I mean, I've never seen someone transform their game the way Bo Nix did in college, and completely going from gunslinger to game manager, but guy that takes care of the football the way he does. And I think all of that is translated to the NFL level for those guys. So I know you don't have the board in front of you, but any other names that you just want to get out there to mention that might have big weeks or just big storylines for the week of practice leading up to the game?
Wow. There's a bunch, man. And that's what's going to be fun, is getting these guys down here and just letting them showcase themselves. Like you're not hearing a lot about Darian Porter at Iowa State. Very similar background to Tariq Woolen a few years ago. Both are former wide receivers. Darian hasn't played corner very long, but he's 6'2.5", and he's going to roll. I mean, I don't know what he's going to run. He probably won't run 4.26 like Tariq, but he's going to run really fast. I mean, this guy was the first sub 47 400 meter guy in the state of Iowa high school track history. You're running in the 46s and the 400 meters in high school. I mean, you can fly now. I mean, that's potential world-class speed. So a guy like, really excited to see Darian down here. I brought up Mike Green, excited to see what Mike Green will do. Excited about this tight end class. We've got a guy you don't hear a lot about, Jackson Hawes. He's a big Y tight end. I mean, big blocker. Those guys aren't the sexiest. You don't hear them a lot in the draft process, but teams love this guy. He's a Yale transfer. And you know this, Steve. I mean, some of the coolest evals and some of the truest evals are when you find a player and you're not looking for him. So just to take you back to, that week 0 game, it's Georgia Tech and Florida State. And just like you guys, you get the tape the next day, and we were all in the office. We're excited. We finally get some 2024 tape, and we're watching it. And this tight end for Georgia Tech, I think he was number 85. He's just, he's kicking the crap out of people. I'm like, who is this guy? And, I always kind of throw questions at the scouting assistants as we're watching tape, and they'll Google guys as we're watching. And they're like, man, this guy's a senior. Like, he's a transfer from he wasn't on our watch list. We had no idea who this guy was. And then to carry it through the season to the point where NFL teams started to hit us up about Jackson Hawes, like, hey, are you guys on the tight end at Georgia Tech? And then when we invited him, then there was another flood of texts and calls like, man, I'm so glad you're bringing him. And then there was other calls like, man, I'm pissed you're bringing him because we were hoping he was going to fly under the radar. So just guys like that. Some guys I feel like aren't getting a lot of love out there that once they come here to Mobile, I think they will.
I love it. There's no more flying under the radar now, Jim, right? I mean, it's
really not.
Is it even possible? Because even if you have a sleeper, like someone else has that guy as a sleeper, right? Is it even possible to have hidden gems these days?
Well, I love there's like a sliding scale on sleepers. Like for me, sleepers are 6th and 7th round picks. When I worked at ESPN, they considered like 2nd and 3rd rounders sleepers at ESPN. I was like, guys, that's not a sleeper.
Everybody knows about them. Yeah.
Like Creed, I did a segment on sleepers and they wanted me to talk about Creed Humphrey. I'm like, Creed Humphrey's not a sleeper, guys. He's a 3-time All-American at Oklahoma. So, no, that's right. It's hard. It's hard to find anyone that truly flies under radars anymore.
Anything else as far as the game goes? I mean, we'll let you go with this. By the way, I mean, we could cut this if needed, but Harold Fannin, is he there and playing? Okay.
Yeah. Harold's going to be down. We're excited. He played his last game here in Mobile in the bowl game and caught 17 balls. I don't know if he's going to catch 17 balls in the game.
They were feeding him. They were feeding him every single drop back in that game. They wanted to get him 50 catches in that game.
He finished with 117 catches, over 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. And I'll leave you with this. Mason Taylor, the junior tight end from LSU, Jason Taylor's son, great player. He's one of my favorite tight ends in the class. He's leaving LSU as the all-time tight ends leader, career tight ends leader in catches and yards. And he didn't have what Fannin had this year. I mean, Fannin's numbers were better this year than Mason had in his career. So yeah, he's a fun player. He gives Scott Loeffler at Bowling Green and their offensive staff credit, because when you can find ways to get your one NFL player, your playmaker of the ball, like, you're being really creative. I mean, you got to be really creative to get him that many touches. And credit Harold, because to do that, to create all those touches, you have to move around. They just can't line you up in the slot or attach you. I mean, they're moving this dude all over the place, lining up in the backfield. They're running, arc motions with him and all this stuff. And he could handle it. So, he's a cool player. When we did the Senior Bowl roster reveal thing on NFL Network a couple weeks ago, Daniel Jeremiah compared him to Antonio Gates, and I'd never really thought about that. But as a mover and as a route runner, because Antonio is a little bit of a funky moving player, and like Fannin's not the smoothest. When you watch him, he's not the smoothest athlete in the world. So when DJ threw that comp out, I liked it. I mean, again, he doesn't like comping guys to Hall of Famers, and neither do I.
Yeah.
But just watching those guys run routes, there's similarities.
Yeah, I was going to ask about a comp, or where does the NFL see him? Is he a big slot? Are they expecting him to be an H-back? Like, what are the expectations for the NFL? I think from Fannin at this point. Yeah,
you'll see him if you haven't seen him up close yet. I mean, he is. He's a classic H-back. He's an F. He'll be able to play some fullback for you, but he's not a guy from a length perspective. You're not going to be able to put this guy on the end of the line of scrimmage and get many people blocked. I mean, that's just not going to be his game. You're going to have to, if you draft him, your offensive coordinator is going to have to have a plan for him. But if they do, this guy could be super productive. He's unconventional. He's not the biggest guy in the world. So, but we've seen the Delaney Walkers and guys like that have a lot of success. So again, just like with a lot of these players, you hope they end up in the right system.
Check the Mic is brought to you by our friends over at Timeline. Get 10% off your order of MitoPure at timeline.com/checkthemic. MitoPure is a supplement that can help you because it encourages cellular renewal. It works by promoting an essential cellular cleanup process that clears out dysfunctional mitochondria, aka your cell's battery packs. So there are no supplements on the market that have better clinical research shown to be effective at targeting the effects of age-related cellular decline. With regular use, you'll see and feel the difference in the form of improved energy levels, better workouts, faster recovery, more endurance, and more. In fact, MitoPure is shown to deliver double-digit increases in muscle strength and endurance without a change in exercise. This is your year to be your best, most energized, most revitalized, so you can awaken the strength, power, and resilience already in you with the first and only supplement clinically proven to rejuvenate health at the cellular level. Again, Timeline is offering 10% off your order of MitoPure. Go to timeline.com/checkthemic. That's TIMELINE.com/checkthemic. Last thing, with the way Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, some of these running backs had a lot of success. And, people talk about the ebbs and flows of the league, and now a deep running back class, right? Very deep running back class here. Maybe one of the best in 6 or 7 years, maybe the 2017 class. Where do we see the running backs coming off the board, and how much do we think teams might be leaning more into the running back position and or the running game?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think seeing those guys, Josh Jacobs, and those guys have really have an impact this year is going to we're going to see that on draft day. We're going to see backs go. The run is going to happen on day 2 somewhere, whether it's the second or the third. Whenever agents call and ask, where's my guy going to go? Where do you think he's going to go? Running back's been the hardest position to project round wise, at least for me, for a while now. So it's going to be dictated when the run happens. I think it's probably going to happen in the second round. I think you'll see, the Boise State kid Ashton Ginty go in the first. I don't know if anyone else will. I think there's some guys that, maybe with a good process, with a good combine, get up there. But yeah, it's a deep class, and it's not a great free agent class. It's like a really shallow free agent class and a really deep draft class. So yeah, I think you're going to see a lot go. I mean, we really usually have a tough time getting 6 to 8 draftable seniors back when it was only seniors. Now that we can bring the juniors, we got Trevor Etienne, we got Ollie Gordon, we got Damian Martinez, we got some juniors really bolstered this class for us. We've got 13 backs coming to Mobile, and we're confident all these guys are getting drafted. So it's a good year to need one. I'll say that.
So now I got to watch all those guys in one-on-ones against the linebackers. That is why we have the film. We got a lot of one-on-ones to watch, a lot of ball to watch next week. Yeah. So looking forward to it. Anyway, Jim, I'm excited. As again, we're actually dropping this while I'm on the field right now as we speak, awesome. Watching everything go down. What do you do during practice week? You just go and kiss babies and shake hands and everything with everybody?
Yeah, I do say that. I mean, nobody watches less of what's going on in the field than me that week. Quite honestly, like I have people on our staff and our scouting staff kind of feed me information every day. And then, buddies around the league will tell me who look good, but I try to fish that information because I got to go on shows and talk about who's doing well. And yeah. I don't watch a lot. So it's a lot of just catching up with old friends in the league and thanking people for coming down and putting out some fires and that kind of thing. So I try to watch as much as I can, but certainly not as much as I'd like to. That's why really like our favorite week of the whole year is the week after Senior Bowl. We come in and we get the tape and we just sit up in my office and there's no stress and the phone's not ringing and you can just dig into the tape.
It's all over. Enjoy watching the week. Well, I'm excited to be down there and see you in person and catch up with everybody. So, and tell everybody where else they could see Senior Bowl practice, the game, follow you on Twitter, whatever else you want to push.
Yeah, so the practices are going to be on NFL Network and ESPN, so that's cool live. They're going to do, NFL Network's going to do some recap shows at night, so that's cool as well. And then the game is on the NFL Network on Saturday, February 1st, 2:30 Eastern, 1:30 Central, local kick. So, come check us out. And obviously it's all over social media as well. It's going to be on the NFL Plus app, live streamed on that as well. Last year was the first year they live streamed on the NFL Plus app. It was here in Mobile. I think we were the first live event they tried streaming on that platform, and that'll be the case again this year.
Very nice. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it, man.